You don't know a man until you see how he leaves this world. Mason Hale was 34 years old, a sharp-featured man with a magnetic voice, known to thousands as the host of The Undercurrent. His podcast promised to peel back hidden truths. Corrupt city officials, corporations skimming from the public, and powerful people who thought their secrets would never see daylight. His delivery was calm, measured, but with a dangerous edge. When Mason spoke, listeners felt like they were in on something forbidden. He didn't just tell stories, he exposed them. And that kind of exposure breeds enemies. On the morning of February 19, 2021, his voice fell silent. It began with his neighbor, 67-year-old Patricia Downs. Patricia lived alone, a retired secretary, soft-spoken and friendly in that way only neighbors of many years can be. She knew Mason only through polite hellos in the hallway, the occasional short chat about groceries or the weather. But she also knew his habits. Mason was careful. He triple-checked his locks, kept his curtains drawn, and never left his front door ajar. So when Patricia stepped into the hallway that morning and saw Mason's door cracked open an inch, her stomach tightened. She called his name, softly at first, then louder. No response. With a hesitant push, the door gave way. The apartment inside was dim, curtains drawn, air stale. The faint hum of a desk lamp was the only light. Then she saw it. Mason lying crumpled near his desk, one arm bent at an unnatural angle, a dark pool beneath his head. Patricia's breath caught in her throat. She stumbled back into the hallway, heart hammering, and dialed 911 with trembling hands. When first responders arrived minutes later, they confirmed her fear. Mason Hale was dead. The coroner would later rule the cause: blunt force trauma to the skull. Not an accident, not a fall. Someone had killed him. But the scene held a strange detail. Nothing was missing, except his phone and laptop. Jewelry was untouched. Cash sat in a drawer. Whoever did this didn't come for valuables. They came for Mason's work. Detectives didn't need to ask if Mason had enemies. The real question was, which one finally crossed the line? The first suspect was Jordan Price, another podcaster. Jordan had once dominated the city's underground media scene with a show called Straight Talk. But Mason's arrival had changed the landscape. The Undercurrent was polished, fast-growing, and credible in ways Jordan's show wasn't. Listeners drifted away, advertisers pulled out, and Jordan's bitterness grew. Online, the feud was obvious. Mason mocked Jordan's lack of sources. Jordan called Mason a fraud with a microphone. 3 days before the murder, Jordan posted a cryptic tweet. "Some people can't handle the truth. When they fall, I'll be there to watch." Empty trash talk, or a threat made real. The second suspect was more chilling. An anonymous stalker known only as the listener. For months, Mason had been receiving emails from a throwaway address. The sender seemed to know his movements, when he left home, who he met, even what he ordered at a coffee shop. "I'm always tuned in," one message read. Another, "Stop digging or you'll be buried." Mason laughed it off on air, sharing the emails with his audience like quirky fan mail. But behind the scenes, his producer recalled his paranoia. He'd check the street before leaving home. He'd sit facing the door in restaurants. Mason had started to believe someone really was watching. Then there was Rachel Sloan, Mason's business partner. Rachel had been with him since the beginning, helping transform The Undercurrent from a bedroom recording into a professional production with sponsors, merchandise, and a growing staff. Outwardly, they were a perfect team. But privately, cracks had formed. Mason hinted to close friends that Rachel wasn't being transparent with the books. He suspected money was being funneled into side accounts. If Mason exposed her, it could cost Rachel everything. Money, reputation, freedom. 3 suspects, 3 motives, all with reasons to see Mason silenced. The apartment told its own story. No forced entry, no broken locks, which meant one of 2 things. Mason had willingly let the killer in, or the killer had a key. Forensics swept the scene. They found scuff marks near the doorframe, as if someone had leaned hard against it during a struggle. On the desk, they lifted a partial fingerprint, though it didn't match anyone in the building. Detectives turned to the missing devices. Mason's laptop and phone were gone, but his cloud backup gave them a clue. Hours before his death, Mason had uploaded a rough recording, fragments of an unfinished episode. His voice in the audio was tense, rushed. "I found a trail," he said. "Dirty money tied to someone I thought I could trust. If this goes out, it changes everything." He never named the person. Detectives leaned on Rachel Sloane first. Financial records revealed irregularities. Thousands of dollars routed through shell companies with her signature attached. But Rachel produced an alibi, grainy security footage, showing her at a hotel conference during the time Mason was killed. She couldn't have been at the apartment. That pushed attention to Jordan Price. He claimed he was home alone editing his show. But cell tower data put his phone less than a mile from Mason's apartment that night. Investigators thought they had him, until they cross-checked timestamps. Jordan had ordered food from a late-night taco truck parked near Mason's neighborhood. The vendor even remembered him, joking about Jordan's large order. Jordan was scratched off the list. That left the listener. Anonymous, faceless. Detectives traced the threatening emails, but the address led through multiple VPNs. Dead ends in foreign servers. Seemed like the perfect ghost. Weeks passed. Leads dried up. Public pressure mounted. The death of a rising media voice had captured headlines, but the case looked unsolvable. Then a break. A forensic analyst combing through hours of local security footage spotted a figure. At 1:17 a.m., a hooded person entered Mason's building. The video wasn't crystal clear, but their gait, the slow, stiff walk, matched someone detectives already knew. Not Jordan. Not Rachel. It was Patricia Downs, the neighbor who had discovered Mason's body. The discovery stunned the team. Patricia, the quiet retiree, had never been considered a suspect. She was the one who called 911, who appeared shaken and horrified. Why would she kill him? Detectives dug into her past. What they found reframed the entire case. Patricia had worked for decades as a secretary for a real estate development firm, the same firm Mason had been investigating. Records showed that during the company's most controversial years, Patricia had acted as a conduit, funneling payments through small personal accounts. What looked like clerical work was, in reality, money laundering. Mason's latest research had led him to those old records. He'd recognized her name. Days before his death, he confronted her in the hallway. According to her later confession, Mason told her plainly, "I can't protect you when this comes out." That night, she took matters into her own hands. Wearing a hooded jacket to avoid recognition, Patricia used a spare key Mason had once given her for emergencies. She confronted him as he worked late. They argued. He refused to back down. In a fit of rage, Patricia grabbed the heavy glass paperweight from his desk, a memento from a past interview, and struck him. When Mason collapsed, she panicked. She wiped the desk, grabbed his laptop and phone, and fled, hoping to erase any trail leading back to her. She thought she had staged the scene well enough, and for a while it looked like she had. But in the end, it was the smallest detail. Her walk, captured on a grainy street camera, that unraveled her secret. Patricia Downs was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Her trial became a spectacle. News outlets painted her as the unlikely killer, the sweet grandmotherly figure hiding a past steeped in corruption. In court, she sat quiet, hands folded, as prosecutors laid out her double life. The jury needed only 2 days. Guilty. 25 years in prison. Mason's death sent ripples through the city's media landscape. His podcast ended abruptly. His final episode never released. But the undercurrent lived on through others who picked up his mantle, podcasters and journalists inspired by his tenacity. His story became a warning and a legend. The man who dug too deep, and the neighbor who silenced him to protect her secrets. For listeners, his murder was a grim reminder. Behind every expose is someone desperate to keep the truth hidden. And sometimes that desperation turns deadly. In the end, the murder of Mason Hale wasn't about rivals or stalkers. It was about greed. It was about the secrets next door, hidden in plain sight. And it was about the danger of asking too many questions, in a world where the answers can kill.